Good morning, Charlie. After major transportation accidents, the NTSB often presents concrete recommendations to get you to your destination safely. But more often than not, the regulatory agencies don't move quickly to mandate those recommendations, or sometimes they don't move at all.
The NTSB.
They are the initials you hear most often.
NTSB.
After a disaster on the road, rails, or in the skies.
We are the investigators.
Christopher Hart is the chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board.
We go to accident scenes, transportation accident scenes, to figure out what went wrong and then make recommendations to try to prevent it from happening again.
Some of the agency's recommendations have led to safer airbags in cars, anti-lock brakes on trucks, and ground warning systems on planes.
Our big picture success story is that more than 80% of the time, even though we can't require it, people do it. That's a success story for me.
But many of the NTSB's most urgent recommendations to federal agencies and the industries they are supposed to regulate get little attention. So, out of a feeling of frustration, the NTSB started a most wanted list 25 years ago. How many items on that list that were on that list in 1990 are still on the list?
Well, positive train control is a good example of that.
8 people were killed in May.
Keep crawling, okay?
When a speeding Amtrak train crashed in Philadelphia. 18 months earlier, 4 people died when a New York City regional commuter train also crashed at high speed. Positive train control and available technology to ensure safe speed could have prevented both accidents.
That's one of the few items in our most wanted list that actually has a date, because Congress established the date, end of 2015.
And how many years did they give them to put it in?
Congress enacted it in 2008, so that was 7 years.
They gave them 7 years?
Yes.
That doesn't give me a warm and safe feeling, knowing you could have solved this 7 years ago.
It's been a long battle.
That battle may continue, because it's unlikely that all of the nation's trains will meet the December deadline. Another long-standing NTSB recommendation, which has remained largely ignored, would require seat restraints on planes for children under 2, who can now legally sit on a parent's lap during takeoff and landings.
It's really frustrating.
John Golia is a former NTSB investigator.
Flight attendants have been penalized, either suspended or fined by the FAA for not securing a coffee pot, but yet we can fly the airplane with a child unsecured. It's just beyond common sense.
The NTSB first made the recommendation back in 1979. Then, in 1989, United Flight 232 crash-landed in Sioux City, Iowa. More than half of the 296 people on board survived. But during its investigation, the NTSB discovered that an unrestrained lap child did not.
We have oceans of data that show that a parent or anybody cannot hold the child in any of these events.
The FAA conducted their own crash tests and came to the same conclusion as the NTSB.
And the physics is very simple. If you're unrestrained, you're going to be a potential missile in a crash.
But the FAA then ruled that requiring child seat restraints would significantly raise the price of travel, and that this would divert some family travel from the air transportation system to the highway system, and that would subject those families to far higher fatality rates.
I don't know where that was thought up, but there is nothing behind it. It's not a peer review. It's blue smoke and mirrors, which Washington is known for.
After nearly 3 decades of FAA inaction, the NTSB removed the child restraint recommendation from its most wanted list.
The cost-benefit challenge is always there in anything that has to be done. So that's the challenge.
There's the cost-benefit unless it's your kid.
Well, that's right, exactly. So statistics don't mean anything when it's you.
Now, even though the NTSB dropped the child restraint seat from its most wanted list, it hasn't backed away from supporting it. Now, another recommendation that was then dropped after nearly 40 years of research was the NTSB was always asking for a national mandate for motorcycle helmet laws. Some states have them, but they never got the national mandate. They took it off the list.
I can't believe that is not a national mandate.
I can't either, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a lobbying against the federal agencies that are required to organize this, and it just falls apart.
Peter Greenberg, thank you so much.